So good morning, everybody. My apologies. When I turned on the Facebook, it wouldn't open up for me, and I had to close down and restart. And they wanted my code, and they first of all put in my password, and then they needed to send me a code. So it was just a little surprise. I didn't calculate, but here we are, and here we are dealing with consequences. Dealing with consequences, but also new beginnings. Every day is a new beginning, and you are a new beginning. You are a new beginning, a foundation for many more people to come after you. And today we have a lot of pondering to do, a lot of inspiration. A famous, riveting story. I'm sure generations and generations of children have pondered it, and it has stayed with people their whole lives. The story of the 12 brothers and selling their own brother into slavery. The rivalries of siblings, how to cope with this reality, part of the brokenness of humanity, where siblings are such a blessing, but can become such a burden, such a pain in the neck, such a thorn in the side, such a pebble in the shoe. Like, think of all the images you could use for siblings. Such a blessing, such a comfort, such a joy, such a concern. So many bonds, so many tensions and pressures. And there we have the famine. The consequences of our actions catch up with us many times, of our habits, of what we do, of how we choose what to do. And now we have the famine, and Joseph is in Egypt, and he has risen to a position of great responsibility and leadership, second to the very Pharaoh. A blessing for the Pharaoh, for all the people of Egypt, through a bad deed of his siblings. Sold into slavery, and now risen to be the administrator of Pharaoh's household. It's amazing. There we see so many different lessons of providence, of how God arranges things in our lives. Consequences of our actions, the interplay, and also the great mystery of mercy that will be looming, because we know the story, the mystery of mercy that will come before the heart of Joseph to redeem his brothers, not just from hunger and famine, but also from their own brokenness. His father aging, thinking that he has been destroyed by wild animals. This is an amazing story of redemption. It's no wonder that Jesus is recognized also there. The brother who is rejected by humanity, who dies on the cross, squashed by the powers of religious leadership and political leadership. And that figure of redemption coming through that suffering. You know, these reflections of these mysteries in our own lives as well. So there's a lot to ponder and a lot to consider. And that's something that needs to be done personally, because each one has their own issues with siblings. Each one has their own issues of injustice. Suffered but also dealt out. And the great light of today's Genesis reading from the book of Genesis, you know, there at the very foundation of Scripture, there we find the triumph of mercy, the triumph of providence. And in our own sufferings, that should also be the story. Actions have consequences, but we should never forget how God's plan unfolds. To lift our eyes up, always lift our eyes up, with the light that is rising, the sun that's rising in our lives. And there we have 12 brothers, and Jesus picks 12 to be brothers today in the gospel. And so we're going to go in here. That's why I stayed here. I was up early this morning. I wanted to go walking in the mountain, but I just thought you'd like to see. And we can see this gospel passage in a unique way. Good, there we have it back. Sorry about that, people. We lost a lot of people. I'm really sorry. I neglected to think about the Wi-Fi. And now people are beginning to come back in again. I'm sorry, people, about the Wi-Fi problem, but we're back in again. Sorry about all the people we lost there. So here we have the 12 apostles. You know, the two testaments, New Testament and Old Testament, are deeply linked. And one of these great links right now is precisely through the 12 apostles. So I just was caught by this reflection here I hadn't noticed ever before. So many reflections in here, confusing for those who are not familiar with this space. So let's just stay here for now. We have the 12 apostles, 6 over here. And we have 6 just behind me. So let's just visit with them, each of them. The 12 apostles, that's a great message, you know. God's providence, He could have saved us all with an email or with a WhatsApp or with a text message or with a laser from heaven, but He chose to work through normal people. And He Himself became man, the Word made flesh. And that scheme of things continues. And so we have Simon Peter. And despite all his weakness, you know, he is given the keys of the kingdom. And that ministry of Peter in the church. You know, the famous line that God works through creation. He doesn't replace creation. He doesn't throw it out. He redeems creation. And all the gifts He gave to people in their persons, in their communities, these gifts are also involved with, completely engaged for evangelization, for the good news, for redemption. So here we have James, the son of Zebedee. And then his brother is John, who's over on the other side across from Peter. And so we have these marvelous works done by Gerardo Centeno. Gerardo is the way it's pronounced in Chile. All our major artists here in Magdala, primarily from Chile, by a stroke of providence. Gerardo Centeno is of both Russian Orthodox and Greek Orthodox extraction in his family. And he did a lot of work giving us these icons. So there we have Bartholomew. If you know any person by the name of Bart, say a prayer for him. And then we have the other James, the son of Alphaeus. And all these people were witnesses, the foundation of the apostles, because the gospel doesn't happen just by internet, you know. The gospel happens in lived community together, telling the story, giving witness to each other. And here we have that figure of Judas, and the gospel usually names him at the last, but not always, and the one who would betray Jesus. And it's interesting that that page of the gospel is not torn out, just like the page of David's sin is not torn out, just like the page of Joseph's brothers selling him is not torn out of the Bible. Everything is included. Humanity in its rawness, in its brokenness, in its woundedness. It's all included. Here we have Philip, a Greek name, a lover of horses. Asking many questions to Jesus at the Last Supper. And here we're going to head over to Thomas. Just for those of you who are not familiar with the space, here we have the atrium of the women. We have shown this many times. So we'll just stay on the apostles today. Here we have Thomas, the famous doubting Thomas. You know, doubters are in the group. I will not believe, you know. Lord, help my faith. There's very different stories. And here we have another Judas. Sometimes you have a name that doesn't ring well because of other people's abuse. And he's Judas, son of James. Judas Thaddeus also, as he is known. And here we have Andrew, the brother of Peter. Obviously, Peter has a much bigger profile in the memory, the Christian memory, but imagine if Andrew wasn't around, Peter wouldn't have met Jesus. Peter met Jesus through Andrew. Andrew went and brought Peter to Jesus. And you can see the little cross on top in the shape of an X because he wanted to be crucified in an X. These two brothers were amazing, you know. Peter wanted to be crucified upside down. The transformation of people in the friendship with Christ. Here you have Simon the Zealot. So the Zealots were people who were politically very much rebels against Rome and didn't want anything to do with the Romans. And the Zealots are the ones really responsible for the destruction of Jerusalem in the sense that there was no way they would agree to any type of compromise. And there were people, even Flavius Josephus, who led the Jewish revolt here in Galilee and here in Magdala concretely. He lobbied with Jerusalem to try and get them to stop, to get them to stop the rebellion and make an agreement with Rome so Jerusalem wouldn't have to be destroyed and the temple wouldn't be destroyed. But they were so filled with zeal, they were zealots, and they wanted to go forward with the rebellion. And so you have this type of character who later went on to suffer martyrdom, being sawn to death, I think, in present-day Armenia. And here we have Matthew, the tax collector. It's the exact opposite, collaborating with Rome, with those who were carrying out the occupation, and hated by the people as a tax collector. And he goes on to write such an incredible gospel. And we have Simon and Matthew here together. So two political extremes, and both serving the mission of Christ, the mission of the gospel, the mission of salvation. And John, another evangelist. And what a gift to the church is his gospel. So here we see a touch of that humanity and how God in his providence brings in concrete people who say yes. And the more unconditional and limited the yes, the more blessed the fruit. People, we have a lot to ponder today in our wonderful readings in the scriptures. I just had a thought maybe to go outside for a moment to let the birds participate in our Thanksgiving. With that beautiful verse from the Psalm we have today. Look at these windows, the way Maria Jesus glazed them. Well, I can't see it as well now, but let me see. Here. Oh, that's a theme for another day. Let your mercy be on us as we place our trust in you. Placing our trust while Joseph is being sold by his brothers. This deep struggle we talked about yesterday with Jacob. The solitude, this struggling alone. The struggle of his brothers dealing with evil in their hearts. The struggle between them, arguing, can we not do another solution? Why do we have to kill him? Killing brothers. It still goes on today in the world. So many forms. Lord, let your mercy be upon us as we place our trust in you. We hope for your kindness to deliver us from death and preserve us in time of famine. And so in our lives today, we are also called to live a great mission. And future generations are depending on our faith and our generosity and our yes. So people, God bless you. It was great having you today. See you later, alligators. Oh, how do I get this to change back? There we go.